Thanks for clicking on to the Saturday edition of Hogan's European Outlook. I want to first and foremost talk a little bit about what was said back at the end of November. Back at the end of November, I did say that the MJO was in a favourable phase for cold. That materialised in November, first week of December, but it was emphasised, and I've been beating this drum for a long time now, and I'm going to continue to beat that drum, by the way, because people shot me down in flames at that particular time regarding a warm up towards the end of week one that would turn the month around. It started off very cold to start December, beginning the winter 2023-24, but I bought into the idea that the MJO in an active phase would turn the pattern around. That happened, and this is what was said for the January forecast. I believe that the phase one response only properly impacts the 500 millibar potential pattern as we progress through week one of January, and the colder push only kicks in between the 6th and 8th. Now, we've seen that. Then it backed off a little bit and eased off, and then maturing mid month, say from the 10th to the 20th of January. Now, that is a period that I've emphasized in recent times, but I want to say that this has been the idea a way back at the end of 2023, and we either continue with the chill or a bit of a pullback to milder. Now, again, this has been getting slammed with regards to a potential turnaround to milder towards the 20th of January. Now, the Arctic Oscillation, this is the GFS ensemble, is now going positive with the Arctic Oscillation. The North Atlantic Oscillation is going positive, and the timing is uncanny, if you ask me. I'm not being arrogant or pompous or anything like that. I'm merely showing you that the tool that is the Madden-Julian oscillation has been working a perfect correlation this winter so far. These pullbacks between mild and cold. We've had the big dip end of November, early December of the NAO. We've seen the cold pattern. Then the MJO rotated through the warm phases of 4 and 5. That then forced the NAO to go positive. We had the mild conditions. Now, the difference, however, I think, towards the mild turn that we see at the end of this month will be different to that of what we've seen back in December. The reason why is the atmosphere is different. The availability of cold air is such that it is more prevalent than it was back during the middle portion of December. There's a world of cold both in our side of the pole in Europe as well as over North America. We're seeing that Arctic discharge now. Edmonton, second coldest temperature in recorded history, minus 46.6 Celsius, and that cold is driving right down into the heart of Texas this upcoming weekend. That is going to help jack up the jet, by the way, over the Atlantic, and we are going to see a flattening out of the pattern. The Greenland block is essentially expecting to force not only a split in the polar vortex within the lower stratosphere, but it potentially could trigger a sudden stratospheric warming. That then has to get taken into consideration for later down the road. Remember what has been said, and the Arctic Oscillation, North Atlantic Oscillation is responding to this. The MJO now heading into the phases that we've seen back in December. But like I say, the sea surface temperatures are cooler than they were back 4 weeks ago. The atmospheric response, even the MJO, acts differently as you progress through the middle and second half of the winter season. But folks, like I've seen back in December, we're seeing a repeat in the month of January here. We're going to go right back into phases 7, 8, and 1, I believe, as we move into the month of February. But what needs to get factored in is what's going on within the lower stratosphere. We're seeing the troposphere to stratosphere response, and therefore that can give you a quicker lead time in terms of an atmospheric response. And I think we are going to go right back to the negative NAO pattern as we move into early February. We could see a sudden stratospheric warming in the upcoming week ahead. We are going to see snow We are going to see cold this week, and then we're going to see the trough shift back north to the west of the UK, opening the door to the Atlantic once again. So this has been playing out almost perfectly, and people have been buying into the fact that this isn't going to happen. You're talking nonsense. The cold will linger on. It looks as if what I've been saying from a way back at the end of November is materializing now. So I thought I wanted to just clarify that before we look at the details of the next week or so here. So just to essentially reinforce the point, this is the GFS ensemble, 500 millibar geopotential height anomalies. You can see here the big positive now starting to pull away from the UK as expected up towards Greenland. The NAO peaks in a negative state. We're keeping our eyes close on what's going on over North America as the trough drills bitterly cold Arctic air down the spine of North America and then shifts east into the eastern United States. We've had all sorts of nasty winter conditions, whether it be freezing rain, blizzard conditions, heavy snowfall, strong winds producing wind chills in the minus 40s and 50s up over northern Canada. That will descend south. But as you notice here, as we push towards the second half of the weekend, now we're starting to see the trough over Scandinavia starting to drift its way westwards. As the high pulls up towards Greenland, you're then opening the door to the Arctic. We had one frontal system moving through last night, gusty winds, a rise in temperature. Now we're seeing a leveling off of the temperature. Quite a mild day actually up here across the north. But then we're going to see the next frontal system. That is the Arctic cold front that will descend south later tonight into tomorrow. And then we're going to have a run of pretty cold air through the course of the upcoming work week. But notice here that at the 500 millibar level, we're keeping our eyes on this feature here. Not one, but two areas of low pressure will move in from a southwesterly direction. Still a lot of uncertainty with regards to the snow track. Some models are now starting to shift it further south, leaving the far south of the UK vacant of snowfall. The main threat, I think, is coming from the north over the next day, particularly the start of the upcoming work week. But notice here, as we play through this loop, into Tuesday, the trough is in place. We still have that northerly flow. Then we start to cut off that northerly connection. Now notice here that it's as that ridge continues to drift further westwards, a west-based NAO pattern. So the focus of the high actually focuses more on the North American side of the Atlantic. And then you notice here that this trough becomes connected to the trough that was been drifting from Scandinavia west into the UK and Ireland. And then eventually what happens is that trough then starts to drift out of North America, connecting up with this trough over the UK and Ireland, and bingo, you have returned the westerlies once again. And that, folks, is a direct focus on this here. That is the teleconnection leading to this turnaround in the overall pattern, which I think is most interesting. I think you'll agree with that. Then by the time we reach Tuesday, the 23rd of January, we've got the pattern flipped right on its head. Now we've got the ridge over southwestern Europe. We've got the negative over the North Atlantic and Greenland here. So we flip from the firm negative to a firm positive NAO pattern. There's your phase 4 and 5 of the MJO. Before we get there, we do have a significant spell of cold and snow potential coming up this upcoming work week. Remember, it was always highlighted a weak to moderate, possibly into the borderline severe category with the upcoming cold wave. But again, I've been saying that with the thinking the mild would return. This is the upcoming 5 days of the GFS ensemble. You can see here firmly colder than average. Notice here we've got warming over Central Europe here because the focus of the cold is actually Scandinavia, the UK and Ireland here as the trough backs west across Europe. The 6 to 10 still holds on to the cold if you notice here. So this is the thing that I'm talking about with regards to the MJO feedback into the mid and upper levels of the hemisphere, is that it's different to what we've seen back in December when we had very mild conditions. I don't think it's going to be as mild. I think we're going to have kind of average to slightly above average temperatures, possibly staying cold across the northern UK with this turnaround. as I've said, I think the MJO is going to go back into the cold phases. 11 to 15, there's the flip around to milder 23rd through the 20th of January. So you might ask the question, how cold is the air mass actually going to be as it descends south? Well, we often look at the 540 line or the 528 line as an indicator in terms of the depth of the trope. The colder the air mass that we get over the UK and Ireland, the thinner the atmosphere is between the surface and the top of the troposphere. So trying to explain this in the easiest possible way, you look at the thickness values within the atmosphere, and the colder the air mass, the thickness values decrease significantly. Now, as we play through the next few days here, as we move into the day on Sunday, we look at these lines here, these dashed blue lines. I understand it's very hard to see that. I'm going to actually try and see if I can get it zoomed in even further so you can see it. You can see here that these thicknesses decrease quite substantially, and the 540 line is shoved well to the south of the UK and Ireland, hence why we're going to see 850 temperatures or 5,000 foot level temperatures well below -10. So there's the 522 line now sinking south. There's the 516, the 510 line. Once you get below 510, by the way, that is bitterly bona fide cold air, and you can see that we flirt with that. The 510 height line goes between Shetland and Orkney by the time we reach 6 o'clock on Monday morning here. That will continue to descend south. We have a little bit of an influence of the Atlantic here. The atmosphere is weakened slightly as it discharges south, and then it's feeling the presence of the warm waters over the North Atlantic. But we are flirting with the 516 thickness value as we move into the early portions of next week. So this is the latest GFS. We've got the cooler air moving southwards through the course of today. As that cold front then descends south, then we're into the proper cold air. Temperatures down below -10 Celsius. As we move through the course of Sunday into Monday here, we've got some 850 temperatures close to -15 Celsius. So this is by far the coldest air mass of the winter so far. So it's descending southwards, as you can see. Then as we move towards the Monday time frame, it's getting shunted slightly to the east here. We've got a system that's moving in off the Atlantic. That will be the first chance of seeing snow. But there's this resistance. There's always a resistance off the Atlantic when it comes to the UK. And you can see here there's a frontal system that moves southwards, increasing the threat of snowfall across particularly the northern and central portions of Scotland. We've got the cold air in place across the south. Then, as that feature then moves into southern Norway, we've got the secondary discharge of bitterly cold air that comes down during the mid to second half of next week. Then you can see as we move towards the 20th, we've got milder conditions moving in from the west. So as we progress through the course of tomorrow, the cold air sinks south, heavy snow showers is going to lay a carpet of snow, particularly with any elevation, but even down to low levels in exposure to the north wind, we're going to see snowfall accumulate quite substantially. Then we get a little bump in the isobars later in the day on Monday. We may see some fairly hard frosts, temperatures in the double digits below freezing potentially. Then there's that feature moving in. We are likely to see mostly snow with that. Maybe a little bit of rain over the Western Isles of Scotland here, but in the central and southern Scotland we are going to see snow. That feature pulls out. We continue with that northerly feed of air from the north. Bitterly cold conditions, daytime temperatures staying below 0 Celsius for multiple days, especially across central and northern areas of the UK. Single figures across more southern areas, but there's the latest GFS indicating less in the way of snow across the south. Just the far south coast may get a covering of snow out of this, according to the GFS. Incidentally, the latest run of the ECMWF, less bullish with the snow feature coming south. Also, it keeps that southern system well to the south of the UK, so it's actually high and dry across the south. But with higher pressure building in initially with snow-covered ground, that is the opportunity for that -15 that I alluded to in yesterday's video. GFS snow depth chart for early Friday morning, ECMWF snow depth chart for late Thursday. Thanks for watching. I do greatly appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe if you're interested in all things weather and explanation. See you again tomorrow with the Global Weather Report. Bye for now.